Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another podcast episode. My name is Angeline Constantino. I am the founder, CEO, podcast host, and global speaker of Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. And I'm so happy today to introduce to you, I would consider my sister from another mother. Her name is Pam French-Spalding, and we had the pleasure of meeting at career conference, not a career, at seminar 2 weeks ago, in the hotel that we stayed at for seminar, which was totally life changing to me. I don't know about you, but it was totally life changing. We got to know each other, and
Definitely.
Pam has an incredible story to share because she overcame domestic violence, and she is now an author. And what I want to do is I want to introduce her. So, what I want to say is Pam is an incredible woman. I had the honor of meeting her at Mary Kay's seminar in Charlotte. And Pam is a writer, a nurse, a survivor, and most importantly, she is a light in this world. And Pam has walked through childhood trauma, an abusive marriage, religious shame, and yet she rose with strength, grace, and faith. Her story is one of divine healing and rediscovering her voice. So, Pam, welcome to the stage here, and thank you for being on my
Thank you
show.
so much.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. So, let's start at the beginning. So, can you share a bit about your upbringing and what life was like in your home growing up?
Absolutely. And first, I just want to say thank you so much. It was such a blessing to have crossed paths at Mary Kay seminar. And I absolutely consider you my sister from another mother.
Same here.
It's such a blessing.
Same
Um,
here.
I came up in the beginning, I came up in a two-parent household,
Mm.
but did not realize for a while that my dad was abusive to my mom. And he was a police officer and he traveled the world. And my mom became a stay-at-home mom to take care of my brother and I are 18 months apart. I'm the oldest. We look like twins, but she became a stay-at-home mom. And as we started to grow older, realized that my mom was abused by my dad. And she was a tremendous strength person with a quiet soul. She was trying not to rock the boat for us, and it was very hard when he would travel and leave us. If it had not been for her mom and dad, my grandparents, we probably would not have been alive today. He left us. We did have a home, but we had no food, no money, and I remember there were times where we would drink water out of a teaspoon. Um, and subsequently, we did end up staying with my grandparent. But there was a few times when I remember he was trying to be abusive, physically abusive. And she came after him with a hot iron and a skillet.
Oh my
And
God.
we helped her throw his clothes out the door. And then at that point, she left. She took us and she left. And we grew up. I grew up actually hating my dad and my brother also. But through the course of adulthood and spiritual upbringing, I
Mm.
realized that I had to forgive him. And she made a point to never say anything bad about him in front of us. She always got us birthday cards and Father's Day cards, and she made a point of trying to keep that connection for us. And I
Right.
commend her for that. And because she was the woman that she was, I was able to forgive him on his deathbed. And he died from cirrhosis of the liver. He was alcoholic.
Mm.
And subsequently, my brother did too. And we realized that forgiveness is not for them, but for us. And so I decided a long time ago that that is not the life that I wanted to live.
Okay. Right. Right.
But
Wow. Wow,
ultimately
forgiveness is
ended up
huge.
living that.
So what happened after that?
So we grew up in a spiritual household. We went to church. My mom believed in God. She made sure that we were well rounded. She grew up in the civil rights era. So I
Mm,
have a strong background of civil rights and what all of that entails and mean. And she taught us from an early age that, and she taught my brother and I differently because, of course, as you've heard and you've seen, it's very different for black males coming up versus black males. And so she taught me to get along with everyone and to know that God is in everyone and that um, people don't know they're different when they're young unless somebody teaches them the differences. And so she taught me to respect everyone and to carry myself as I was a child of God, a queen. And so I tried to do that and I tried to live that every day of my life. And but as being a rebellious teenager, my mom and I'm really, really close, but females, mom and daughters, we battle.
oh,
And
yeah.
so I really wanted to get away from home. And so I met a
Mm,
guy when I was in college, early on in college. I met a guy and fell madly in love with him and wanted to experience life and leave. All
mm,
of my friends, they were having sex and babies, and that's not something that I wanted. I did not want, excuse me, to be have babies out of wedlock, and I
right.
would had no intention on having kids at all. And so I expressed that to the man that I fell in love with. That wasn't something that I felt a part of my life. I love kids, absolutely love them, but that wasn't something that I wanted for me. And he expressed the understanding. So I thought, subsequently got married, and all of this happened while I was in nursing school. And
Right.
so immediately after we signed the marriage certificate, life completely changed. And
Mm,
he became really verbally abusive in the beginning. And I didn't realize that that was abuse because I was an independent woman. So I thought, and I was making my own money. I just graduated nursing school. I was working. We had an apartment. I
mhm,
was driving. Um, I was, making a life. And my mom and I had a tremendous relationship. We would go to wrestling matches 1 minute in jeans and go to the opera dressed in after five attire the same week. So we did a gamut of things together, and he did not like that relationship. And
mm,
little bit by little bit, I didn't realize that he was isolating me from my family. And then once I um, passed my nursing boards, I immediately got on 3 to 11, which was really hard for me to conquer because all my life I had been a morning girl. And so I had to
mm,
figure out how that looked in my life and working through to 11 and coming home and trying to deal and connect with a husband who was trying to isolate me and not being able to contact my mom or my friends. And it was just him. And then he was totally ignoring me. So that in and of itself is abusive. And I didn't realize that either. And
right.
then
Me
it
too.
turned
Actually, me
from,
too. During my
wow.
divorce, same thing. Same thing.
And I didn't want to believe that I was abused. And I was in the marriage for 10 years. And every time I talked about leaving, then he turned the corner and would do what I expected him to do or what I thought I needed him to do, be nice, just to recognize me, not talk bad to me. And then that would only work for a few months until he thought I was safe and I wasn't going to go anywhere. And then little bit by little bit, he would slip back into the abusive behavior. And then then it turned into um, sexual abuse. And then from there, physical abuse. He actually hit me and blacked my eye. And that actually happened to be about a week after I got my Mary Kay started. And no one knew. I was totally ashamed to tell anybody because here I am, independent woman. I'm married, I'm a nurse, I'm a Mary Kay consultant. I
Right.
loved women. I belonged to 4 women's ministries at the time,
Mm.
for different churches because I loved that camaraderie. And I defied my husband and still went out and created those relationships and relationship with my mom. And I was afraid to tell my mom, my brother, and my grandfather because all 3 of them had tempers, and I didn't want them to come after him. Plus, I didn't want them to be in jail. So
Mm.
I just buried it all, got up every single day, went to work, and came home and did what I thought was the best that I could do. And being in Mary Kay, I learned how to use concealers. I learned how to conceal on the outside what was going on the inside.
Wow,
I
tell
became
us
a
about that.
master.
Wow.
I became a master at learning how to blend the physical concealers on my black eye. So when I would get up in the mornings and go to work, no one knew.
No one knew. Okay.
And
Mm.
no, yeah, no one knew because you couldn't see on my face what was really going on.
Wow.
And I knew that I had to get up. I loved my job. I believed that God had called me to become a nurse and a surgery nurse, actually. And when I found Mary Kay, or when Mary Kay found me, um, it was such a warmthness, and I could be standing in line for recognition, and people would just come up to me and just hold my hand and pat my shoulder, and some would even, and they would just give me this lovingly look that they they had a love for me, that they didn't know me, that they had a love for me, and that was comforting to me because I didn't get any of that at home. And I was running, but didn't know where I was running to. I knew what I was running from, but I didn't know what I was running to. And I stayed the course. And the church that we landed, we were brought up to think that God frowned on divorce and didn't want to be hated by God. So
Right.
I hung in
Right.
there for 10 years because of that. And even though I was very spiritual, my aunt posed a question to me that helped me and also helped change my life. And she said, "Have you read the Bible for yourself?" And I grew up in a church there were a lot of older ladies, and they would always say, "You got to know God for yourself. You got to know Him as your healer for yourself. You got to know Him as your
Mm.
provider for yourself. You got to know who He is for yourself." And I never really understood that. But when she said, "Have you read the Bible for yourself?" And I went, you know, I actually really have not. I've read passages, growing up in church where children's church, and on Sundays when they would lead you to scriptures, but I never actually sat down and read the Bible for myself. And I started doing that, and I started praying, God, show me what I'm reading and help me understand what you're trying to teach me. And it was then that I realized that God never intended for me to be abused,
There you go.
and that He intended for me uh, to be loved. The fruits of the spirits, the greatest of these is love. And
Absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
I had a real struggle with that, with church, and you
Mm.
know, I'm married, and how do I connect all the dots, and me, if I leave, what does that look like for me? Well, in the interim, when I realized that God did not intend for me to be in an abusive situation, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so, one particular Sunday, I had bought this dress from J.C. Penney, and it was a black dress, and I absolutely loved it. And I put it on, and I was going to church. And that was the day that my husband twisted my arm, almost broke my arm, and sexually raped me on the as I was getting ready to go out to church.
Oh my goodness.
He was in the bedroom, and he came out, and just as I had my hand on the door, he grabbed me and spun me around and hit me. And then I just laid on the floor and just started sobbing and just saying, Jesus. And when he heard me say Jesus, it was like he got startled, and he jumped up, and then he ran. And I locked the door, and we had a floor model color TV at the time. And the strength that God gave me, I pushed that TV against the front door. And then I went and I took a shower, and I locked the door, and I put a chair in the door in the bathroom, and I took a shower, got myself ready again, and put on the same dress. And I went out to church, thinking anything about it. I came home, and he was sitting on the couch when I came home, completely, and he was a deacon in church, and he completely looked at me as if I wasn't even there. And
Wow.
that broke my heart. And so I walked into the bedroom, and I put my hand behind my back to unzip the dress, and he attacked me again.
Oh my goodness.
And I was able to turn around and kick him off of me. And then that's when he hit me, and I ran, and I didn't know what to do. And I really seriously thought about, we had a basement, and I really seriously thought about throwing myself down the basement stairs.
Oh, oh my God.
It's really hard to think about the thought that I was going to end my life over him. But then I stood at the top of the steps, and I looked down, and I thought about my mom, and
Mm.
I thought, who's going to help her through her diagnosis? I'm the
Right.
oldest. My
Mm.
brother um, lived 45 minutes away, and he came in when he could, and she relied on me. And we had such a bond that I didn't want her to be disappointed, and I could not stand the thought of her dying alone. And so that in and of itself stopped me from doing that. But I did think about slashing his tires, and I did think about slashing him, actually. And
Wow.
yeah, shortly after that, I came home one evening, and it started to affect my work. And when I started snapping at my patients, then I had to step back, and I had to realize, well, wait a minute. My personal life has now creeped into my nursing life. And
Right.
I'm made to care for people, and this is not me. So then I had to think a different thought again. And I came home one evening, and he looked at me and didn't say a word. He completely, totally ignored me. And I just flew into a rage, and I jumped across the threshold. And he's a little over 5'1", And I jumped across the threshold in our bedroom and put my hands on his neck, and he was turning blue.
Uh-oh. Oh.
And yeah, but the most miraculous thing happened at that time. I felt the presence of God, and it was as if I saw his arms reach around my shoulder and my arms and my fingers, and it's like he peeled each one of my fingers off of his throat. And then I looked down at his face, and he was able to take a breath. And then he jumped up, and I knew at that point that that was the end of our relationship. And then he
Wow.
subsequently told me that he did not believe the fact that I didn't want to have kids, and he wanted to have kids. And he married me anyway, and he could think he could change my viewpoint. And um, later on, I subsequently realized that he was abused when he was growing up. I think either an uncle or a friend sexually
Mm-hmm.
abused him, and that
How
was
did you
another
find that
healing
out?
point.
Did he tell you that, or?
Um, no, actually, he did not tell me that. One of I heard one of his cousins talking, and I picked it up. But I did confront him, and I did say to him, when I got the nerve to confront him, because I slept for years with a butcher knife under my pillow because I was afraid. And when I decided that I was going to go ahead and get a divorce, um, I threatened to tell him because not to tell him, I threatened to tell other people. And I realized that that was what he was holding over me, that he knew that I was going to be silent. And when I started saying that I was going to tell everybody who would listen, he backed away. And then I looked at him and I said, "The only thing that you can do for me is give me a divorce and leave me alone.
There
And
you
I
go.
also know that you were abused when you were younger." And he looked at me and he started crying, but he didn't say a word. He just started crying. And then I said, "I forgive you, but I need to go." And so I stayed in the abusive marriage an additional 6 months or so while getting my mom through her illness. I put everything on the back burner. I got up every single day as though nothing happened. I went to my grandparents' house and I took care of her. I went to work, took care of my surgery patients every single day like clockwork. And she got diagnosed with breast cancer 1 week before Mother's Day, and she passed away 1 week before her 56th birthday.
Mm.
And um, if I, when I look back, being married to him, the only thing positive that I could say was that when he found out that my mom passed away, he got up and he took care of the family because I was a basket case. I
Right.
couldn't breathe. I couldn't deal. She was my life and my purpose. And he took care of everybody else. And I got into the car and I drove for a solid 2 hours. And I
Mm.
ended up at her gravesite. And I believe in her heart that she knew that I was abused. And at that point, I remember her saying that, "Now, when I pass, I don't have much, but you're the oldest. You do what you know you need to do, and you use what you need for you." And that's what I did. I used the money that she left us to get my place and to get away and be safe. And I used
Mm.
it to help pay for my divorce. And I pawned my wedding ring so that I could pay for my divorce. And I moved on. Little did I know, though, that there was still a whole lot of healing left to do. And I was angry at the church for a long time.
Mm,
because we both went to the same church. And it just made me ill to see him in church every single day. I mean, every single time that I went. And where I moved, because he didn't want anybody to know, he helped me move. But little did I know that he made a copy of my key and he'd been coming in and out of my place taking stuff. Yes. And
wow.
then when I found that out through my neighbor, I got a restraining order. But then the police said that um, if I went to church and he went, that I would have to be the one to leave. And I'm like, but that's not fair because I was there first. So I talked to my pastor, and my pastor was a woman. Little did I know that she saw some things and she had been counseling him, and she didn't realize that it was still going on. And so she immediately told me, you were mine in the beginning. And if it comes down to it, he's going to leave. I'm going to protect you.
Mm,
And that was the first words of healing that I heard. It helped me heal, because I was bitter towards the church because I thought that people could see, and I thought that they were condoning what was going on, and I didn't have a voice.
right,
And
right.
for a long time, and so for a long time, I wouldn't talk about it, and I buried it very deep because I had to. I had to get up every single day and work, and I had to keep going. Um, I had to, and it was buried so deep that when I found the the husband that I have now, he knew that there was some hurt there, some deepness, and we ended up going to church together. And one of the sermons was on Tamar, and the minister looked at me and he said, as if God was totally speaking to me, it was not your fault. God did not intend for the abuse to happen to you.
Mm,
And that was like, and then he said, you did nothing wrong. And that was like a big band-aid that had come off. And I spent the entire day crying on his shoulders. And so he gave me the time to heal, and to help give me my voice back. And that was over 20 years ago, and we are still together today.
that's a
And I mean,
blessing.
it
That's a
was
huge
rough.
blessing.
It was rough. And I decided at that point that I was going to use my Mary Kay platform to speak to the women who were hurting in abuse. And God put in me to write a book, actually, like 3 books. I wrote one, it isn't published yet, but the title of it is In the Name of Christianity, Healing for the Hurting Christian Woman, Abused Woman. And because we get so much wrong information, that that wrong information almost caused me to help me undo my life.
Mm, okay.
And when I got to know God for myself, pray and read the Bible for myself, as my aunt suggested. And she was my mother's sister, younger sister, and she would always come around to the hospitals and check on me. And she would call up, and I would be in surgery, and she would just say, tell Pam that Aunt Dorothy says I love you. And because my family totally negated me, they totally misaligned me and joined sides, and I knew that that was going to happen.
That's
But
not unusual.
I
That's
did
not
that
unusual.
for, yeah. I was totally alone when I met my husband that I'm married to now. I told my brother my truth, and he turned his back on me. And worst of all, my grandmother, my mom's mom, when I told her the truth, she turned her back on me too.
Okay.
And that was really that was really difficult. But The only person that didn't turn their back on me was my mom and my grandfather. And my grandfather passed away a year after my mom did, about a year and a half after my mom did. And he helped me with my divorce. And whenever my ex would come over to their house, he would call me and he would say, "You're not coming over today, are you?" And then I knew that he was going to have a visit. And I said, "No, I won't be there." But he always protected me and he always kept me safe.
That's good.
And
That's important,
mhm,
especially,
mhm.
yeah. What a
And
story,
so
man.
I
Oh,
buried I buried it for a long time. And I didn't start even talking about it at work. I just happened to be, it was probably about maybe 10 years ago, um, in my surgery job, that I let everybody know where I had been. One of my coworkers was in an abusive relationship and she was talking about it. And all of a sudden, the memories came up and I started talking to her and helped her through some things. And then I realized that um, I had done makeup for her wedding, and through our connection, she was able to determine and heal from and get out of her abusive relationship. I have a coworker now who is in a similar situation,
mm,
and I shared my story and the statistics of a woman getting away from her abuser, the statistics of that woman being killed are greater when they start to leave. And even though it's a hard thing to talk about and a hard thing to realize, it is a necessary part of getting
mm,
away. That you can't stay in a relationship because you're afraid.
exactly.
You've got
Thank
to get
you.
the courage to get out and to move on, even if it means I'm going to be harmed, even if it means, because chances are they're just using that tactic to get you to stay. Um, but when my mom passed away, I did not have it. It was quick and unexpected, and she actually gave up the will to live.
Mm,
And it was such a surprise that I didn't even have time to think about getting a dress. And so I knew I had that black dress that was buried in the back of my closet. And I had buried that memory and put that dress on.
mm,
And I did the memorial service and I went through the burial. And then one Sunday, when I got ready to put that dress back on to church, to the same church, um, I sat there at church and I looked up and I saw my ex-husband's face in the choir. And all of a sudden, everything started flooding back. The abuse and when he
mm.
almost broke my arm. And for a long time, I could not raise my shoulder, my arm up. And in nursing, we have to do CEUs. And one of the CEUs that we had to do was domestic violence. And that
Mm,
all actually happened on the same week. And I was at the library and I was looking, I was going through the CEUs and I'm reading all of this. And all of a sudden it started flooding back. And then that Sunday when I went to church and I sat there and I see him across from me in the choir. And then I looked down and I happened to have on that same dress. And I jumped up. And by the time when I drove myself home, which was probably about 10 minutes away, I had ripped that dress from the bottom to the top. I had
wow.
ripped it completely off. And by the time when I got out of the car, I was in a slip. And I put it in the trash. I balled it up. The ironic thing is that a few months later, when it was my birthday in August, I get when my grandparents were still in, I got a birthday gift.
Mm.
When I opened the box, I knew who it was from, and I took it to the dumpster. It was from my ex, and he had bought the same identical dress and gave it to me as a gift. And I'm like, really? So I took it and I threw it in the dumpster.
For you. Good for
And
you.
I'm like, he knew, and that was so hard. That was really so hard for me to deal with. Um, I was so broken and so um, abused, and just so um, I couldn't hardly walk. I was scooting. I walked with my shoulders bent over because I didn't even have enough strength because it was so heavy for me. Um, I didn't even know who I was. I looked in the mirror and I saw an old person. And then all of a sudden, one day, I looked in my closet and I thought I have nothing to wear. I have nothing to fit me. Who is this person? And I saw all these old clothes that my grandmother would wear. That's how, in my mind, I saw myself. And I clung to the scriptures. I clung to God's word, and I realized that in the scriptures it says that everything that God made was good, and God made
Mhm.
me. And so, because everything God made was good, I must be good, and I must have something good to give to someone. And so I used the script. I It took on a different meaning for me. It took on life for me.
Okay.
I love Psalms and I love Ruth, and um, I love the, the scriptures. I love Ruth, and it just took on a whole new meaning for me. And I would delve into, what does that mean for me? Show me um, how that's going to work for my life, because I was in disbelief. Um,
Right.
even being married, it still was hard for me to walk out of that shell, of not being heard and not being seen. And right before I met the man that I'm married to now, and bless his soul, he has been so kind and helping me through this and helping me grow. I actually was two people and $1,000 away from earning my first Mary Kay car.
Wow. And how
And
many years ago was
it
this, by the
all
way? How many years ago was this?
this was let's see, this was probably like 25 years ago.
Unbelievable.
Um,
Yeah.
hmm It was the year that Mary Kay had a signature car. It was an anniversary year, and it was
Okay.
platinum, and it had a hot pink MK signature written on the side.
Oh, I love
And I
that. Oh my
loved that
gosh.
car, and I wanted that because at this point in my life, I knew that God had called me to be a surgery nurse, and He called me to be here in Mary Kay. In the beginning, the very first year in Mary Kay, I actually equaled and surpassed my salary in nursing. And so my goal was to get out of nursing and to do Mary Kay full time. But
There
then
you
I
go.
realized that God called me to do both. So all these many years later, I'm still working it out, trying to
Okay.
find the balance, because I know God called me to both. And I did actually try to get out of Mary Kay also.
Oh, you did? Oh my
And
goodness. Wow.
yes, yes, I did. I did. Because after the abuse,
Mm,
um, a lot of people, I tried to shake a lot of people. And after I did not become a director, because I'm like, I feel it in my heart that that's where I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
And I was so broke and so disappointed. And I went to seminar that year, and I really did not want to go, but I made myself go, and I cried every single time. I cried the entire time, and did not understand the big picture of how God protects you. And
Mm.
one of my other books that I'm in the process of writing is um, hidden in secret places.
Okay.
God hid me in secret places. Everybody thought that I was gone from the state, but they didn't even realize that I was still here in the state. I was still
Right.
working where I was working. Um, God hid me, and I moved around. And one of the places that I moved to, it was next to um, next to a storage place, a storage unit. And my ex found out that I lived in the area. And so he would drive his car every night. But because it was a storage place, I could hear the gate, and I could peek out the window and see his car. And right next door to where I was living, my pastor's sons lived there, and a police officer. And so they kept me protected. They kept me
Oh,
hidden in plain sight, in secret. And then when I moved from that place, and I got to the place where I met my husband that I have now, um, God hid me in secret. And I could look out my living room window and see the highway, and I could see all the cars. And
mm,
so I knew that I was well protected, and that if he were to find me, I could see him first. And it took years for people to know that I was still in the state. And the coworker that I was talking about that was talking about her abuse. When I was sitting down talking to her, all of a sudden, like a light bulb, boom, it came back to me. And then I started crying again. I'm always crying because I realized that God had his hand on me this entire
that's right.
time. He
That's right.
protected me in secret. He allowed me to do what he called me to do, be a surgery nurse, while he's healing me and sharing my testimony through people that I met through makeup.
Mm.
Um, because he knew makes me feel good. Makeup
There you
makes me
go. It makes
feel,
you feel good and
yeah,
confident
pretty. Yes.
and pretty. Yes,
Yes, confident,
absolutely.
and yes.
Exactly.
And not
Exactly.
only that, he put people there that would hold my hand without even knowing what my story was. And that helped me a lot. And so I realized that that year that I was so upset about not earning the use of that signature in my car saved my life. And I'm so glad that I wasn't persistent, and allowing God to use me. And once I got to the point, I said, okay, I'm just going to cry myself through this.
There
It
you go.
was when my coworker started talking about her abuse, and me sharing my abuse, that a light bulb went off. Had God allowed me, and had I persisted on earning the use of that signature car, he would have been able to pick me out. And that same year, they kept writing me up because I kept being late to work, because I was so exhausted from everything that was going on. It was all I could do to get myself up. And they were like, we really need you to be here on time. And me being a person of prayer, I felt like I heard the Spirit of God say, just listen and say, okay. And so they said, we're going to have to change your time. And I took a deep breath and I sighed, because my time was 6 to 2:30. It was the perfect time. I missed
Sure,
all of the traffic. I missed the snow. I got off at the perfect time. I was able to, leave work at 2:30, and if I wanted to be on my couch by 2:45, and just it was the life that I absolutely loved. But then I took a deep breath and I said, okay. I allowed them to change my time. I was never late after that. And because of that, I didn't park in the same spot that I parked in. I actually ended up getting my car repoed. And because they said I didn't make payments, and I was trying to find all of my receipts, and I couldn't find my receipts. And
mm,
then with my grandfather passing, I was able to drive his car. He gifted me his car.
oh, that's so
And
sweet. See?
but before he got sick again with cancer, he co-signed for me to I drove for 4 months a rental car, one car, a different car every month.
Mm,
Didn't even realizing what was going on behind the scenes. God was protecting me behind the scenes. With that one conversation from the scrub tech at work about her abuse, all of this came flooding back. And I realized that God had his hand on my life the entire time.
amen.
He had
Amen.
to allow me to be late
Hmm.
because I parked in the same place every single day. And with him changing my schedule, I had the same parking spot. I didn't take the same route home every single day. I didn't take the same route going. And because my car got repossessed and I drove a different car every single month, he couldn't find me. And because I didn't earn the use of that absolutely gorgeous um, MK signatured car, I would have been one
Hmm.
of the very few in the area. And he would have been able to pick me out like that. Exactly. Exactly. And so all of this revelation, I was like thoroughly amazed and just really thanking God that he had his hand on me the entire time protecting me.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's
yes,
right.
and I don't know what else he has for me, but I do know that through Mary Kay, if I hadn't
Mm,
met you, I wouldn't have been able to share my story. And
there you
I
go. There you
know
go.
that, yes, this is going to reach a lot of people.
It's going to reach a lot
If
of
I get out
people.
of Mary Kay today, I have served my purpose.
There you go. And how
If I
long have you
turn a
been in
different
Mary
corner
Kay?
today,
Right.
27 years, 27 years.
Amazing.
And the
That's what I
amazing
love
thing
about
is,
Mary Kay is the
when,
longevity and the purpose,
yes,
the mission. And Mary Kay has a foundation, by
yes,
the
yes,
way, called the Mary Kay Ash Foundation, where, and I made a donation at seminar and I plan to make more donations. She has
yes,
donated millions of dollars to domestic violence survivors and shelters.
absolutely.
So I'm crying now. We have a voice. Like we're
Yes,
all here for a purpose. And God,
yes,
because you know why? Because I remember when I was getting breakfast that you had invited me over because I was by myself and we had breakfast and we stayed
yes,
at the hotel and and I was just
yes,
like, boy, God is just working. God is working. We don't realize it. God is working. We may think he's at the end of the day, life is happening for us, not to us. And I actually wanted to stay at
yes,
another hotel, but it didn't work out. And I said, you know what? God had another plan. And this hotel turned out to be great because I met you and I met your colleague,
yes,
because we're all colleagues, we're all sisters. We're all sisters in Christ.
absolutely.
And that is the most powerful part of that whole of the convention. So um, your story has a powerful impact, and it will have a powerful impact on a lot of women, a lot of, especially Christian women. So, what message do you want
Hmm.
women to take from your story? What's the biggest message that you want women to take from your
The
story?
biggest takeaway, the biggest message is don't give up. Don't give up. And one of the most important things, tell someone, talk
Mm,
to someone. Don't feel embarrassed. I didn't tell anybody because I felt embarrassed. And when I finally did start telling people, I was isolated, but I didn't even let that stop me either because I knew that if I was wrong, that I was a big enough woman to come back later and say, "Look, I'm really sorry. But right now I have to do this for me. I have to heal me and I have to break away." And my friend who I'm helping now, her son and family are turning against her as well. And I said,
okay.
don't do that. I said, don't even think about that. You got to move forward. So just know within yourself that God made beautiful and he made you. And now out of your situation, don't be ashamed. Talk to everyone who will listen. Find someone, Walmart, police, hospitals, anybody, another friend, somebody. Go to them. Make sure that they know, and please stay safe. And know that there is a greater purpose that God has for your life, and that He did not intend for us to be abused. His greatest
Exactly.
message is of love.
Exactly.
And if we
Exactly.
can just hear, if we can just, and there were some times when I didn't even have enough strength. I could only think about the woman with the mustard seed faith. And I sometimes I couldn't even, I was so exhausted and so down that I couldn't even picture myself holding my arm up, being her trying to reach the just the hem of his garment. Sometimes I would have to just picture myself reaching and holding my elbow up with my other hand and trying to grab just a little piece of the string of a gold strand. And if I could picture in my mind, if I could just touch the bottom of that gold string that's hanging down from the hem of his garment, then I would be okay. And it was that strength, that mustard seed strength, the tip of the mustard seed. I didn't even have a whole mustard seed. I just
Wow.
had a tiny bit. Just that alone kept me going. And you've got to allow people to help you too. You got to allow people to help you. And the blessing of that is that I was asked into Mary Kay twice before I actually said okay. And had I gone with my first person, I still would have been in the group that I'm in now. And so
I see.
actually sat out for a while when
Mm,
I was trying to get away because I'm like, I can't handle all of this. I can't do all of this. And God allowed me to step back. And that's the blessing of Mary Kay, that you can step back and you can pick it back up. And when
exactly.
I
Absolutely.
decided,
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely. It's not about the numbers. It's
yes,
about, like for you,
yes,
you joined Mary Kay during the storm. Now, 16 years ago, I was with a different company at the time. I joined during the storm. Oh, that was a huge storm. And I came out of it and I rank
yes,
it. I'm like, the same day I signed my divorce papers was the same day that I rank advanced in the company. That was a huge breakthrough because God had a plan.
yes,
And God had a plan for me
yes,
to join Mary Kay last year. And I had to take a step back actually for a little bit because my dad passed away. He went to go live with the Lord on Christmas Day, and it was very, very, very difficult time
hmm,
for me. Um, but I'm very glad that I went to Mary Kay because I almost did not go to seminar. But then God put it in my heart. He said, no, 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 you are going to seminar. And look what happened. We met.
I'm glad. Yes, I'm so glad to have met you. And had I stayed with the first unit that I was in, I would
Mm,
not have been where I am, and I would have not have met you. And chose to step back and I chose to let everyone who was on my unit, my team at the time, fall off, and that was hard also.
Sure.
And then I was going to a different church, and um, the person who recruited me, I came to her and I said, I don't believe I'm supposed to get out of this, but I don't believe that I'm supposed to be in the unit that I'm in. Can you please re-recruit me? And she said yes.
Okay.
And then the next thing I knew, Linda Tupin was calling me on the phone. And I had always been to her meetings. And I always trained under her because my unit at the time was a part of her training group. And she called me, and I'm walking in the hallways of the OR, and she's like, "Pam French, this is you. This is you." And I wasn't even married at the time when I did this, and so, for the second time, that is. And I also changed my name. I took back my maiden name, and I tried to recreate myself. And instead of Pam, it was going to be Pamela. But of course, as life happens, with my name being so long, it's just Pam. So,
I
but
love
I'm
your
a
name,
different
Pam.
Pam
I just
now
love.
than I was then. And when I realized that I was in her unit, the first time that I realized that I was in her actual personal $1 million unit, and when I went to career conference, and it was in the city where I am from, Louisville, Kentucky, and I was working, and I got off from work, and I got there, and I'm rushing in trying to find a place. And because us married couples, we're like herds of cattle. You open the door, and we're trying to find a close up spot.
Sure,
And
sure.
she found me, and she did the most profound thing ever. She came to me and she held my hand, and then she put her hands on my hand, on my face, and she said, "As long as you're with me, you have a place. You don't have to fight to find a place. You have a place." And that spoke volumes to me, not even just a physical place to sit,
Mm,
but that someone would look for me, because I felt like I was an ant in a sea of people that were taller than me, that no one could see me, no one could hear me, no one knew that I existed.
mm.
And even in nurse, even in my surgery career, where I was previously 7 years ago, for 30 something years, I had to fight for my right to exist. I had to fight for my right to be heard, um, because of discrimination, or whatever else. But um, and because of my mom's background and what she taught me, I'm tenacious like a bulldog. I just hang on there. And so I didn't want to be reduced to an ant anymore. And it was because I chose to move on and move to where I was supposed to be. Every time when I try to get out of Mary Kay, I would open up the scriptures, and I'm like,
Uh,
God, make it make sense to me. And
what I
it
was
would
going to
open
ask
up
you.
to
Go ahead. What
it
is
would
one of the
open up
scriptures or
to
quotes
where
that carried
God
you
was
through the
telling
hard times?
Abraham, stay in the
Mhm.
land that I placed you.
Ah,
And every time I would try to, I sell off my product, I'd get rid of people. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And every time I would open up my Bible, it would go to that, when God told Abraham, stay in the land I placed you. So I'm like, okay. And I realized that the Tupin unit was the land that God had placed me. And because I'm in the Tupin unit, is how I met you.
there you go. There you go. I'm looking forward to
And
collaborating.
so, I mean, God is just,
Yeah, God is moving.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, he is moving. And I absolutely love my life now. Um, it's still hard, and but I can see the light. and I can see God moving. And God never said it would be easy, but I see how He's moving in my life now.
There you go.
And if I had to go through what I had to go through to get this message out, then I would do it all over again to save someone else's life, to say, look in the mirror. God says that you are good. Everything He made is good, and you are good. And God loves you. And hold on, because God's coming. Tell somebody, reach. God did not make us to be alone.
Mm, that's right. He didn't.
And
He
yes,
didn't.
no.
He didn't. Absolutely.
I'll tell a woman, tell everyone.
There you go. There you go. I love that. I love that. I love that. Now, I want to ask you this, what does breaking the silence mean to you personally?
Breaking the silence means personally, I broke my own silence because I was silent in my abusive marriage. I didn't consider myself abusive in the beginning. There's verbal abuse, there's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse. And they start there first in your mind, making you think that you're less than, you're not worthy, that you didn't hear or see or think what you thought you heard or saw, make you think that you're going crazy, making you think that I can't do this. And because I was silent, I almost undid myself. But because I said I was going to speak up and I said that I was going to break my own silence,
Mm.
and I did the courageous thing. I broke the silence and I told my director. I broke the silence and I told my head nurse. I broke the silence and I told my manager. And some people, even when I was telling my story to them, when I broke my silence, as they were passing the door, they heard bits and pieces of it, and they would to be later because you never know what another person's gonna what another person's going through.
I agree with you.
You never know what's on the other side of that door. And because they heard bits and pieces of my story as they were going back and forth across the hallway with the door closed, or with me just, someone saying, hey, I heard this, and me talking to them even out in the hallway with people hearing that, because I broke my own silence, started singing like a canary, and I started talking to people, and I started telling people my story, that has helped a lot of people, and that has given a lot of people courage to break their own silence. It is so important that we not live in silence anymore.
Mm, that's
God
right.
gave us a mouth for us to sing, whether we sing in song, whether we sing in hymn, whether we moan and cry, because sometimes I could only break my silence through crying and moaning. Sometimes I couldn't get the word out to break my silence.
There you
And
go.
breaking the silence is volumes.
Volumes. Yeah.
The word itself is breaking the silence on domestic violence. It's
There you
breaking the
go.
silence.
Good.
Just the title itself is volume breaking. And I commend you for that title. And it sounds and it feels like that you have thought and prayed and allowed God to guide you with that title. I could not have titled it any better. I'm
Thank you.
breaking my silence every single day, and I'm not ashamed anymore
Right.
of where I
Right.
came from
Exactly.
and what I walked myself out of. I didn't do it alone. I did it by the grace of God.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that because breaking I own the domain name. Let's Break the Silence is a name that I came up with 6 years ago based on a vision to empower women like yourself to share your real life story. And this
Yes.
story, I had chills. Like I have this red jacket on. I actually felt cold. I'm like, I literally have chills right now. And Pam, you're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, this is a platform that God poured in my heart to build.
You're amazing. Thank you for stepping out and breaking your own silence and allowing me
You're welcome.
to do the thing that God has called us to do and do the thing that my mom said was possible. She would look at you and call you daughter.
I believe that. There's a lot of women out there who call me
Mhm.
daughter, daughter, sister,
Yes.
yeah, daughter of the king, just everything. Just God poured
Yes.
it in my heart to do this. So your courage and your honesty and sharing from the heart, your story will help so many women realize that they are not alone, especially younger women today, because there's just
Yes.
so much chaos going on in the dating world. I mean, I probably would not want to date right now, so I'm very happy being single for 16 years. And
Mhm.
your message and your story is amazing, and that healing is possible. So, in closing, how can women find your work or stay connected with you as you prepare to publish your book?
Ooh. Well, they can reach me through text messaging. My number is 502-431-6812. They can also reach me through my Mary Kay website, which
Okay,
is www.marykay.com/Pam French.
okay,
And that's connected through Facebook and Messenger as well.
okay. So I'll put all the links in the show notes, everyone. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
yeah,
And
no problem.
as I figure out where God wants me to go with this book, um, I look forward to when I first got in my spirit write the book, and I'm like, wow, because it was painful. It
Oh
was
yeah,
painful, and
that's
I
painful to
haven't.
write your own story, even to share it. Like to this week, I've been on
Yes,
2 podcasts this week. But each time I share it, it's healing. It's part of
yes, it
healing.
is.
And I feel always that, we're always in that healing process on
Yes,
peeling back the layers and peeling back the onion. And the more you do that, the more you talk about it. And
yes,
I mean, yeah, I've been on 2 podcast shows this week. So literally when I did this interview today, I'm just like, this is one of the most powerful interviews. Th- I don't call this an interview. This is a conversation. This is one of the
conversation.
most powerful conversations that I have ever had because you were real, raw, and vulnerable. And that's what you bring to the table for women. So I'm
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. And your family and everything. Just, you know, we met for a reason. God brought us together. God is always working. We all have
Yes,
spiritual gifts that we have to offer. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let's impact
absolutely.
many people's lives. So actually, we're coming to the close of this episode. So this episode will be uploaded on my YouTube channel. It'll be sometime this afternoon. I'll send Pam the link, and then let's make this go viral, and
Okay,
it'll be uploaded on my podcast tomorrow over the weekend.
okay,
All right, and then I'll send you all
all
the
right,
links. I'll have all the links in the show notes, and
okay.
we're here to inspire, motivate, and encourage each and every one of you that you will have a story to share, and don't be afraid. Don't feel ashamed to share your story. So please stay in the green room. I call this for 2 minutes. And everyone, have a beautiful Friday and weekend. Okay, many blessings.
Bye.